Everything you think you know about who destroyed the world in Fallout is probably wrong. Not because the show lied to you, but because it told you the truth so quietly that most people missed it. In Season 2, Fallout doesn't reveal its biggest secret with an explosion or a villain monologue. It reveals it with a single sentence. One casual line that instantly removes Vault-Tec from the top of the suspect list, destabilizes Mr. House's role in the apocalypse, and points toward a far older, far more dangerous force that has been hiding in the shadows since before the bombs fell. If that line means what it appears to mean, then the Great War wasn't a mistake, it wasn't escalation, and it definitely wasn't chaos.
I believe there is another player at the table.
It was preparation. Now let's get into it. Fallout Season 2 does not reveal its biggest twist with explosions, speeches, or dramatic music. It does it with a sentence you probably didn't think twice about. A sentence that passes through the scene like background noise, and that is exactly why it matters. In Season 2, Episode 5 of Fallout, Justin Thera's Mr. House casually mentions an unknown party preparing to drop a bomb. Not Vault-Tec, not himself. An unknown party. The moment those words are spoken, the show quietly detonates everything we thought we understood about the end of the world.
The same unknown entity responsible for your demon in the snow.
Because if Mr. House didn't drop the bombs and Vault-Tec didn't drop the bombs, then the apocalypse wasn't just the result of greed spiraling out of control. It was planned. And whoever planned it was powerful enough to stay invisible. That single line forces a terrifying question. What kind of group could exist above Vault-Tec? To understand why this matters, we need to rewind to Episode 4's opening during the Sino-American War on the Alaskan front. This scene isn't just visual spectacle, it's narrative placement. We see Walton Goggins, Howard Cooper, encounter something that fundamentally should not exist yet. A Deathclaw. Not in the wasteland, not after nuclear fallout, before the bomb. That alone is the show telling us something is wrong. Deathclaws have always symbolized the post-apocalypse, nature twisted by radiation and human arrogance. But Season 2 reframes them entirely. These creatures are not accidents. They are weapons. Designed. Engineered. And that's where Mr. House's unknown party becomes critical. In Episode 5, he directly connects the group behind the Deathclaws to the group preparing to drop the bombs. That means the apocalypse and the monsters that dominate it come from the same source. This is no longer about survival planning. This is about restructuring the world. For longtime Fallout fans, this connection immediately triggers one name that the show has not yet spoken aloud. The Enclave. The Enclave is not just another faction in Fallout lore. It is the shadow behind the government, the continuation of pre-war America's most extreme elements. Formed by high-ranking politicians, military leaders, and corporate elites, the Enclave believed the United States did not belong to its people, but to a select few who were fit to inherit it. Even before the Great War, they were preparing for a future where the old world would burn and only they would remain. And unlike Vault-Tec, the Enclave didn't just build shelters, they built contingencies. One of the longest-running mysteries in Fallout history is the origin of the Deathclaws. Canon tells us they were created by the US government as genetically engineered shock troops, biological weapons designed for high-risk military operations. But the games always leave one problem unresolved. How do you control something like that? You don't intimidate a Deathclaw. You don't discipline it, you override it. In Fallout lore, the Enclave is one of the few factions explicitly linked to successful mind control experiments involving Deathclaws. Using helmets, neural suppression systems, and radio beacons, Enclave forces were able to tame these creatures, turning them into obedient instruments of state power. That detail matters because Season 2 introduces mind-controlling technology being worked on by Mr. House and Kyle MacLachlan's Hank Maclean. At first glance, this looks like parallel innovation, but when viewed through established lore, it looks more like imitation. Mr. House isn't inventing something new, he's racing to catch up. This is where the Enclave theory becomes dangerous, not because it's confirmed, but because it fits too well. The Enclave had access to nuclear arsenals. They had control over classified research. They had ideological motivation to wipe the slate clean. If the goal was not just to survive the apocalypse, but to own the aftermath, then the Great War stops being a tragedy and starts looking like a strategy. That doesn't mean the show has confirmed the Enclave dropped the bombs. And it's important to be precise here. What Season 2 is doing is positioning evidence. It's aligning themes, technology, and motive. It's telling us where to look, without yet saying the name. And that restraint is intentional. Nowhere is this more apparent than with Hank Maclean. Up to this point, Hank has been framed as a collaborator working alongside Mr. House. But several of his actions stop making sense under that assumption. His knowledge is too precise. His timing is too perfect. And his relationship to the Deathclaws feels less like fear and more like familiarity. Look at how the Deathclaw behaves on the New Vegas Strip. It doesn't act like a wild apex predator. It intimidates, it corners, but it doesn't kill Lucy. For a Deathclaw, that is unnatural behavior, unless it was being controlled. If Hank had access to Enclave-derived mind control technology, then the Deathclaw wasn't attacking Lucy. It was managing her, creating fear without fatality, applying pressure without breaking the asset. That also explains how Hank knew Lucy was in Freeside. He didn't track her emotionally. He monitored her operationally. In that moment, Hank stops being a conflicted father and starts looking like an operator, continuing a pre-war agenda. This is where Fallout Season 2 quietly transforms genres. What initially feels like a post-apocalyptic survival drama begins to resemble a conspiracy thriller. Power is no longer decentralized. Chaos is no longer random. The wasteland is not just the result of collapse. It's the environment someone wanted. And that brings us back to Mr. House. Season 2 subtly rehabilitates House's role without redeeming him morally. By admitting the existence of an unknown party, House positions himself not as the architect of the apocalypse, but as a rival who lost control of the board. He still wanted power. He still wanted order, but he may not have been the one to press the button. That distinction matters, because Fallout has always been about hierarchy, and the scariest revelation is not that powerful men existed, but that someone existed above them. Even real-world metatext reinforces this direction. A leaked Magic: The Gathering Fallout tie-in card reportedly depicts a Deathclaw wearing a mind control helmet, explicitly referencing the Enclave. The imagery closely mirrors what the show has already introduced visually. That kind of cross-media alignment rarely happens by accident. It suggests the Fallout TV series isn't borrowing Enclave aesthetics casually. It's preparing the audience for their arrival, which makes sense. You don't introduce the Enclave early. You earn them. If Season 1 was about survival and Season 2 is about revelation, then Season 3 is poised to be about confrontation. Not between good and evil, but between competing visions of control. Vault-Tec wanted to study humanity. Mr. House wanted to preserve civilization. The Enclave wanted to own the future. And that's the darkest idea Fallout has ever played with. Because if the Enclave truly orchestrated the conditions of the wasteland, then the bombs weren't the end of the world. They were the opening move. Season 2 doesn't scream this at us. It whispers it, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. The real villain hasn't been revealed yet, but the show has already told us exactly where to look.